your premier Madden League fantasy show, and I got my main man here with me. Go ahead and introduce yourself for the folks.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Fallen. We're back again with your fantasy tips and tricks.
Yeah, and we roughly been running at 45 to close to an hour every episode. This episode, we're gonna focus on getting it done a little quicker, so people don't lose focus and tune out of this. So let's jump right into it. First, we're gonna jump into the standings real quick. As you can see, on the AFC division, Drama Man's the only undefeated fantasy player right now at 2-0. Then you're in second place at 1-1 with a natural. Then in the NFC division, we got a couple undefeateds in Mali Rojo and myself, Nefarious. Then we got a couple 1-1s there. But that's the standings so far. We're going to take a look at the scores up to date as of now. We still got a few games that need to be simmed. You take a look at Natural. He's going with Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs, who's a replacement for, I believe, C.J. Verdell from Pittsburgh, who had a disconnected game where they had to recreate the score, so we don't count that game. DJ Chark Jr., Tyreek Hill, Noah Fant, Rico Gafford, Tucker McCann, Buccaneers defense. And then you look at your lineup, you got Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, Michael Thomas, Stephon Diggs, Evan Ingram, Miles Sanders, Aldrick Rosas, and then the Dolphins defense. You still got a couple players to go. I believe Stephon Diggs got you 0 points though. He already played. I don't know what happened to him. Do you know what happened? Is he injured? What happened with Stephon Diggs?
Yeah, no, I think that game was played pretty late at night, if I'm not mistaken. And I called it in the morning. I called the stats. He's not injured, unless he got injured during the game. I'm looking at the injury report right now, and the Bills only had a left guard who was injured. So, Diggs did pretty well last week, so it's kind of surprising that he wasn't in target at all. I know it definitely hurt, because right now that matchup is 125 to 113. So that's coming up with the zero can potentially, cause me to lose here. So a little disappointing. Kind of curious of what happened there. Maybe maybe it was an oversight, and I have to get more information on that game.
Yeah, and it might cause you to lose. You're only down by 12 points. But Tyreek Hill, you wouldn't be really scared of. But the thing is, it's going to be a simulation game. So in the simulation game, he actually can get his stats compared to the user played games that he's had so far. And then Noah Fant, same thing. Noah Fant, same thing. He's going to be a simulation game because the Chiefs play the Broncos, so you never know what he's going to get there. You could get big points from both those players. But you got the Dolphins defense who's going up against the Patriots. That's going to be a tough game, so I do see you losing this one if I'm going to be honest. And that zero from Stephon Diggs is going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, I was looking at that too. Just a kicker and a defense left. I'm not really expecting too many points, and I think Natural kind of knows that, or how does his kicker left. So I don't know if he's potentially going to do anything to avoid kicking field goals, or maybe, he'll go for it in situations where he's normally going to kick a field goal, kind of knowing that, every little bit counts.
Yep.
So it'd be interesting to see how he kind of plays with his kicker, and, if it's 4th and short, maybe he goes for it instead of kicking it when he normally might. And then, the Dolphins defense, the kicker scoring points, so they kind of go against each other. I just got to hope for some turnovers and, points with that defense. And,
yeah, that's for sure.
Hope for 0 catches. I think it's a little tough to kind of think, but because both of them will be starters out there, so you figure the computer will get them a little bit of yards. Force wins as well as Sims in general. It seems like the scoring is pretty high. So.
Yeah, that's true. So it's going to be a tough one for you this week. Hopefully you come out with the win, but it's going to be definitely going to be a tough one. We move on to the next matchup, and we got FK NJP versus Drama. FK went with Russell Wilson, Travis Etienne, Kenyon Drake, Chris Godwin, Kenny Galladay, Cole Kmet. Then he had Preston Williams, Jason Sanders, who's playing later on, Preston Williams as well, and then the Texans defense. And then Drama had Jameis Winston, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, T.Y. Hilton, Julio Jones, Gerald Everett, Amari Cooper, Sam Sloman, and football team's defense. And a couple things that stand out immediately. Jameis Winston and T.Y. Hilton. That's the Colts and the Pittsburgh Steelers game that got recreated. Everybody else got to choose a replacement, but Drama did not. As somebody that knows this league, could you tell the folks why exactly Drama wasn't able to replace both Jameis Winston and T.Y. Hilton?
Yeah, so Drama played against those players. It's kind of one of those things where I guess maybe he wasn't thinking. I know the game got played on pretty early, but regardless, you gotta know your fantasy lineup and who you're playing. It's one of those things, kind of unforgivable. And actually, I'm pretty sure with only a 10-point lead and with a quarterback in Russell Wilson, I definitely can see him score at least 10 points, as well as, you still got
and that's
Williams there too.
and that's gonna be it's gonna be
lose.
sorry, it's gonna be a forced one too for Russell Wilson. That's the little thing I want to add into that Russell Wilson. So it's gonna be good stats for him. What were you saying about Preston Williams?
He's on the Dolphins, right?
Yeah, he's on Dolphins, and it seems like a red zone target.
Yep. So, he could get a couple catches, and then all Wilson has to do is score a couple points here. So I think that huge mistake is going to turn into Drama's first loss of the fantasy season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big loss he's going to receive just from not paying attention to his lineup and understanding the rules there. We're going to move on to the next matchup. It's myself, Nefarious, versus Mally Rojo. You take a look at my lineup. I got Tom Brady, Philip Lindsay, Saquon Barkley, Terry McLaurin, Randall Moore, T.J. Hawkinson, Bryce Love, Justin Tucker in the Lions defense. And then Molly's going with Tua Tagovailoa, Todd Gurley, Ezekiel Elliott, Henry Ruggs III, DJ Moore, Jonnu Smith, Amra St. Brown, Robbie Gold in the Vikings defense. So one thing with Molly's off lineup, Henry Ruggs is injured, and he's been injured for the past couple of weeks, but he keeps putting him in the lineup. That's just not paying attention to the league, not paying attention to your lineup a little bit. I won't say he's fully not paying attention, not as bad as Drama did this past week, because he did make a change, I believe, at quarterback or something. He made one change, but he did not pay attention to Henry Ruggs being injured. I think Henry Ruggs is actually out for a few more weeks after this week too. Then you take a look at my lineup. Besides T.J. Hawkinson, who's been struggling in that Lions offense, I mean, I had a solid point spread throughout the lineup. Right now I have a 131, and I still have Philip Lindsay, who's the first overall draft pick for my fantasy team, so I expect him to get a lot of points. Anything you want to mention on these two lineups?
So Mally, if you're listening, Henry Ruggs is out 3 games right now, but of course when we advance it'll be 2. So for the next 2 weeks, pick a new person.
Yeah, pick a new wide receiver. Simple as that. I mean, if you had a different wide receiver, this would be a lot closer game right now, and you would have Tua going up against Philip Lindsay. But you're going to play Henry Ruggs, and he's injured. He's not going to get you any points. So I don't see him beating me this week, because Tua would have to double. He would have to more than double the score of Philip Lindsay, and I don't see that happening.
No, Tua would have to have the best game we've ever seen by a quarterback in PML.
Yeah.
It's not like he has an easy opponent,
Yeah, he would.
And the Patriots,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't quite see that happening. I mean, Tua's only thrown 5 interceptions, 5 touchdowns so far this season, so he'd have to nearly double that or to get the points I need.
Yeah, it would be tough for him, and I don't see it happening. So I should jump out to 3-0 in my division, and with drama's not in my division actually, but with Molly losing this week to me, I'm gonna be in sole position of first place in that division. You take a look at this matchup. You got Q versus Geeked. Q's going with Deshaun Watson, Matt Breida, Javion Hawkins, Devontae Adams, Rashad Bateman, David Njoku, who was a replacement for Eric Ebron, Cooper Kupp, Will Lutz in the Patriots defense, and then Geeked has Dwayne Haskins, Nick Chubb, Alvin Kamara, Marquise Brown, McCole Hardman, Darren Waller, Marquise Goodwin, Josh Lambo in the Bears defense. And Alvin Kamara absolutely went off. He's looking like a premier fantasy back, especially in this league. The new Saints user is using him both out of the backfield and out of the backfield in the passing game, and running all over the place with them. So he's looking like a stud. And then he got 30 points from Darren Waller, who's been a stud all season. And then you take a look at Q. Deshaun Watson, you actually apologized for that. Gave him a negative 3.46 points. It was a tough week for you. You mentioned that. But Javion Hawkins still had a good game, even though you had a tough week throwing the ball. He had 28 points for him. Anything you want to mention on a couple of those guys?
Yeah, Javion Hawkins, he scored pretty quick. I believe on my first possession, I went down the field, and he had like a 20-yard touchdown, and then I just kind of working Hawkins into the routine this season. Watson's falling behind in the volume on that, and some of his passes are my fault, and some of his passes are the computer. But this week it was just one of those games where kind of got down and then got past happy and wasn't really paying attention to who I was going to, more so trying to fit in tight windows, and it just didn't work out. So just one of those games.
Yeah, just one of those games you got to shake it off. He was. It was funny because the last episode he was just, giving you all the what is the word I'm looking for? All the credit. Yeah, pretty much all the credit for his fantasy so far, especially with Javion Hawkins and Deshaun Watson. And then the next week after that, he kind of cursed you a little bit as he came out and gave you a little bit of bad juju with the praise. So that was tough. Don't see Q winning this week. Geeked was going to be on the show if he was around. But unfortunately he was not around, so we'll have to get him on the show at some point. But he has 155 points. He's having a really good week. There's no way Q's gonna come back from where he is at now to beat Geeked. But let's jump on to Burn and LQ Noble. LQ Noble finally made a change at quarterback, I believe it was. He had Patrick Mahomes, who was absolutely shooting himself in the foot all season. This week would have been a decent week to have him because it's going to be a simmed game. Even though the Chiefs are getting a loss, I still see Patrick Mahomes putting up some points. But you take a look at Burns' lineup. He's got Matthew Stafford, Rashad Penny, Nyheim Hines, Will Fuller V, A.J. Brown, Devin Ossie, DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Badgley. Then he's got the Chargers defense. LQ's rolling with Trevor Lawrence, DeAndre Swift, Tony Pollard, Damiere Byrd, Brandon Cooks, Hayden Hurst, Jalen Guyton, Joey Sly in the 49ers defense. And just looking at this, Nyheim Hines I had on my sit-em for this week. If you didn't listen to me, kudos to you because he had 43 points. Really couldn't contain him. I don't know exactly what I was doing with my game plan defensively, but didn't contain him the way I hoped. And he had a good game, both rushing and passing. I think he had 28 carries for 126 yards. So he wasn't gashing me for a lot throughout the game, but he had a lot of ball control and a lot of third down conversions, which led to a lot of points for Nyheim Hines. So that was a bad call by me on the start and sit him. And that's pretty much the most of the points coming out of Burns' lineup besides Matthew Stafford. That 43 points and then the 27 from Matthew Stafford's really carrying that lineup. And then you take a look at Noble, he's only got two running backs on his lineup, DeAndre Swift and Tony Pollard. So every week they got to play, and lucky for him, Tony Pollard actually went on the ended up getting a lot more touches because Ezekiel Elliott ended up getting injured in that game. So Tony Pollard took over the number one back role, and he had 40 points. It's going to be interesting to see if the Cowboys go with him over Ezekiel Elliott moving forward.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. I think they both have their benefits. Ezekiel Elliott, obviously he's an X factor, but I think if he can get a depth story, and especially after the week that Pollard had, I don't know if there's any specific bonus for a player coming in and having the kind of game that they did in the absence. I would imagine, Madden may put something in there like that, so he knows the depth story, this upcoming week. And Pollard's definitely faster, he's more elusive. So it all depends on if that happens and then what abilities he gets, and kind of his preference. So
yeah,
Pollard's a good backup to have nonetheless.
Oh yeah, Tony Pollard is a dangerous weapon out of the backfield. If it wasn't for the no trade list, I think Ezekiel Elliott would be on a move. I think he, after that kind of performance, over 200 yards and a touchdown, and 3 receptions, 21 yards and a touchdown. I mean, he's the more explosive back, and everybody knows in Madden it's all about the speed. But that's going to be it for the games. Let's take a look at the schedule for next week. You take a look quick. We go on to week 4. We got Geeked versus FK, Drama versus Fallen. Then we got Nefarious versus Burn, Noble versus Q, and then Natural versus Melly Rojo. And next week is the first week of the buys for the regular season. We'll go into that because we're going to talk about our stardoms and situms for this week. I believe you had the quarterbacks again, so you want to talk about some of the quarterbacks you got on that list?
Yes, and I want to stress the point you just made. We've already talked about it. This week, please pay attention to your lineups, pay attention to who you're playing, and also pay attention to who is on the bye week, because as we've seen, one player can make or break your team, whether you're going to win. But going into that, my starting quarterbacks, I got Jameis Winston, Daniel Jones, and Josh Allen. And then for my situms, I have Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, and Russell Wilson. So going into that, I think Jameis Winston has a really favorable matchup against the Rams here. And this decision is pretty much solely based on his matchup, I think.
Yeah,
he's going to be able to do whatever he wants, whether it's passing, to wide receivers or to a running back. He's going to be able to put up some points. So I think, definitely going to start him. Daniel Jones, he's one of the top passers in the league, and I think he has a favorable matchup against the Panthers as well. And then Josh Allen, he had 4 touchdowns last week against the Panthers, so it kind of goes into play with the Daniel Jones pick. And this week he faces off against the Bengals, so I think that's going to be another high-scoring game.
Yeah, you mentioned Jameis Winston as your first starter. Really can't miss that matchup with the LA Rams, who's struggling throughout the season so far and giving up a lot of yards as it is. And Jameis Winston has been playing well with his weapons. So also you got to look at that matchup of Jonathan Taylor too with that Rams defense. So it's a big week, heavy Colts week, I think, when it comes to running backs and quarterbacks. I honestly didn't even include Jonathan Taylor as one of my starting running backs, but that's obvious one. I kind of went with a non-obvious choice when it came to my starting running backs. My starting running backs I got are Tony Pollard, like I mentioned, against I believe the Cowboys against the football team. After the week he had, I know Ezekiel Elliott is coming back, but after the week he had, I think you're going to see a lot more Tony Pollard in that offense. I think he'll start to favor him a little more. I could be totally wrong. That's a shot in the dark right there. Then I got Dalvin Cook The Vikings are going up against the Seahawks, who I gashed when I played them with Ty Chandler, who's definitely a lesser back than Dalvin Cook. So I could see Dalvin Cook absolutely going off against the Seattle Seahawks. Then I got Austin Eckler as my last, and the Chargers are playing uh, the Chiefs, and that's a really good matchup, I think, there. When you look at my sit-ems, I got Nick Chubb, Christian McCaffrey, and then I got Rashad Penny. So Nick Chubb, the Browns are going up against. I think I just passed them. They're going up against the Steelers, who's got a solid defense, and the Browns haven't been looking good, especially with Nick Chubb. I don't think Nick Chubb has been looking great fantasy-wise, and he's got a strong defense to go up against. And then the Giants, he's pretty good game planning and taking away your best option. Like he's if you're more heavy on the pass, he'll focus on the pass. If you're more heavy on the run, he'll focus on the run and force you to beat him with the other thing. So I think he's going to focus in on Christian McCaffrey and force the Panthers to throw the ball. So I think that's why Christian McCaffrey's not going to have a good week. And plus, it's a running back by committee situation there for Carolina. And then you look at Rashad Penny, the Seahawks running back. He's going up against the Vikings, and I could see this game getting out of hand early, and then the Seahawks kind of have to move away from the run, and that's why I have him on my cinemas. Any thoughts on those?
Yeah, no, I like them, especially your halfbacks. All those guys, they scored over 100 last week, and then I think the Pollard pick will be definitely interesting, especially if, like you've already talked about, if there's a dead story. The football team, they let Miles Sanders run for over 100 yards and a touchdown. So I think if he chooses to use Pollard, I think he's going to find some success there.
Mm-hmm.
But the football team does they will force turnovers, but I don't think we're going to see the running backs fumbling too much. So no, I think those are great picks. I think the only caveat with the McCaffrey pick is he's great catching the ball out of the backfield. So even if he gets stopped, I think he's good for at least 10 points a game just catching the ball. So
Yeah, he is a good for a couple of catches, like you mentioned. That's the one thing, especially in a PPR league. He is so valuable. I don't know. I just feel like Q will hone in on that and use her the running back and try to take him completely out of the game for him and force him to go elsewhere. But yeah, that's a close one. Did you go over your wide receivers?
Yeah. So I have for my starting wide receivers, I have Deontay Harris from the Saints, Paris Campbell on the Colts, and Allen Robinson on the Bears. And then for my sit-ups, I have Marquise Goodwin, Jalen Guyton of the Chargers, and DeAndre Hopkins. Deontay Harris has been targeted a lot, at least 6 catches in the first 3 games. So he's not putting up, monstrous numbers, but he's got enough to make him one of the better pass catchers in the league. And Paris Campbell, again, he's playing the Rams defense, so I think he's going to get an easy 100. And with Allen Robinson and the Bears are a quiet 3-0. I feel like, we haven't heard too much from them. And Allen Robinson is leading the team with 322 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I think he has, a tough matchup against the Ravens. But I think Robinson, comes away. I think that game's going to be pretty high scoring. So Robinson's going to be the go-to there.
Yeah, that game's.
And with my sit-ups, the biggest one is Jalen Guyton, and I know he's been a starter that we've seen so far, but he isn't producing anything.
No.
So if you have Jalen Guyton, I would sit him this week.
LQ Noble. Yeah, Jalen Guyton has been one of those that hasn't shown up all season. Really hurting lineups, specifically LQ Noble. The one that hasn't been hurting the lineup for anybody is Rico Gafford. That's the real steal out of that wide receiver core in LA. And Natural picked him up, so that's pretty much the only wide receiver. And actually, Keenan Allen got a couple receptions and 73 yards in the score in his game last week. So even Keenan Allen is seeing more targets than Jalen Guyton right now. But
Jalen Guyton has
yeah,
zero touches,
yeah,
0 yards.
yeah,
He's only played 15 games.
yeah,
So
definitely,
he's not even.
definitely
He's not
somebody
even
you want to sit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you could cut him completely off your team. I like your low key starter there, and Deontay Harris is what you said from the Saints.
Yep,
Um,
from the Saints.
yeah, I think that's a an unknown around the league. You don't think Deontay Harris is going to be out there getting a lot of playing time, but it seems like the Saints like to use him in a gadget type of way. I don't know if he gets a lot of jet sweeps and stuff like that, but he's got good abilities from what I know. He's got a couple return abilities, probably some stuff that helps him in open field. So that's a good one. The only one that I'm afraid of is the Allen Robinson just because of the matchup. I think that Bears. You think it's going to be high scoring? I think it's going to be low scoring, based on the last few weeks. I know week 3 the Bears had a lot of points, but the Ravens are usually keeping teams low. I mean, they beat the Chargers 28-24 in week 3. In week 2, the Ravens beat the Broncos 37-7. And then in week 1, the Ravens beat who they play.
The Bengals, 63-26. Yeah, and no, that's a good point. The Ravens' defense has been pretty top-notch so far. However, I think this is their first true test.
Yeah.
The Chargers had a really good season last year. They made the playoffs, so that was definitely tough. They did let up 24 points, but the Bears are having an even better season. For the first 3 weeks, and I think this is going to be a true test. And if the Bears can stop Lamar, I think they're going to be able to score pretty easy on offense. So that's why I think it's going to be pretty high scoring. So.
Yeah, that's true. Let's jump into the tight ends. And my starters for tight ends, I got Alan Lazard. I believe it's Alan Lazard from the Saints. Converted tight end from wide receiver. He sent him to the Calvin Benjamin camp, which means he gained 10 pounds, and now he reaches the weight and run block limit to become a tight end. And he's a pretty decent tight end that stretches the field for him, and he's been using him so far this season. I think he's the 3rd-rated tight end thus far this season. And then he's got a good matchup against the Eagles, who's not really good on defense. Then you take a look at my second tight end. I got Dawson Knox for the Bills. He's going up against the who is he going up against? The Bengals. He's going up against the Bengals. He's been a good weapon for him. If Stephon Diggs, I think he might have got injured during the game, but I think he's back next week. I think besides Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox is somebody he likes to use a lot. That's why I'm going with him, and I like the matchup that he has. And then my third tight end is going to be the Steelers tight end, Eric Ebron. He's got a really good matchup with the Browns. The Browns defense, everybody knows, is really not that good. So that's why I got that one. Then for my sit-ems, I got Travis Kelce. As you know, that Chiefs offense has looked terrible throughout. That's why I got him on a sit-em. Then I got Cole Kmet. The Bears are going up against the Ravens, and I really don't like that matchup, especially it's going to be one guy that's going to get the looks. It's either going to be Allen Robinson or Tariq Cohen, who's going to do any damage in that game. He's going up against a really stout defense, so I don't like that matchup at all. Then the last one is Hayden Hurst, who again has been in somebody's lineup every week, but hasn't received any real targets. I believe he's received the bare minimum. I would have to go look at that, but it seems like Gerald Everett is the guy to go to on the football team, and I don't think Hayden Hurst should be in anybody's starting lineup moving forward.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. Hayden Hurst should not be on the team. Maybe if Everett or the rookie tight end gets injured, then maybe pick him up. But I think he's going to be a drop candidate at the end of the season, in PML. So he has no right to be on a fantasy team. Kind of just wasting roster space there. And then I like that matchup with Ebron. The Steelers and the Browns opened week 1, and Ebron had four catches for 60 yards. So a solid 10 points. I think he has a chance to kind of outshine that performance. And this one, the Browns are 0-3, and in their first game, but it was 20-24. So I like. I'm sorry, it was 30-24. So pretty high scoring. There's a good pick for Ebron to kind of get targeted. So I like that pick.
Yeah, not a really good a good defense over there for Cleveland. We're gonna jump into the schedule and look at who got the bye week this week. So if anybody's watching this, they could understand who's not gonna be playing. So I'm taking a look through the schedule. So far, nobody yet. So Buccaneers got a bye week, so you will not see Ronald Jones or Tom Brady in my lineup. I don't know who else got Tampa Bay Buccaneers players, but if you do, make sure you sit them because they will not be getting you points this week. Then we keep going through. Colts, nope. Cowboys are playing. Dolphins are playing.
Patriots, I think, is it?
I think, yeah, the Patriots are one. Just trying to make sure I don't miss anybody. Lions are another, so I won't be using TJ Hawkinson this week, even though he hasn't got me any points. If you got DeAndre Swift, I want to use him this week. DeAndre Swift, is he on the? No, I'm thinking of somebody else.
Swift is on the Lions.
Is he? All right, yeah. So I am thinking of DeAndre Swift. So if you got DeAndre Swift, don't be playing him. Kenny Galladay, whoever's got Lions players, make sure you have him out of your lineup. Green Bay is also on a bye. So Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, which you have, definitely want to avoid playing him. Then you take the Patriots, as you mentioned, are also on a bye week. And that actually, what was that?
It's just 14.
Yeah, so that's it right there. So anybody from those 4 teams sit this week. It's not going to be worth it. They're going to get you 0 points. Pay attention to your lineups. I think after a few weeks, if I keep noticing, people just ignoring the rules, ignoring lineups, then I am going to bring in some of these guys who are on the waiting list. We'll be talking about that a little more off the air. But that's pretty much it. Any closing statements that you'd like for the folks?
No, good luck this week. Again, we've said it plenty of times already, but just make sure you're looking at your lineups. A lot of premier guys and a lot of guys that I know are in starting lineups this week or on buys next week. So make sure, there are plenty of guys that we talked about this week that haven't been picked up yet. So if your guy's on a bye week, try to put a waiver claim in. Just make sure you're paying attention.
Exactly.
It's very early, and it's anybody's game on who's going to win the division and get into the playoffs. So
yeah, and it's a lot of work that we do when it comes to this fantasy stuff. So, I mean, don't make the work worthless by not participating. And you threw your name in your hat in the ring when I asked if you wanted to play. So please just put some effort into it. This is for the league to make the league more unique than what it already is. So just pay attention to your lineups. Me and Fallen are, putting in a lot of work, a lot of man hours, entering scores and stuff like that. So that's just the main thing. Don't make it all for naught, and make sure that you pay attention for us. But that's pretty much going to do it. I'm Nefarious, and I'm with my boy Fallen, and we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you for joining us. Please like, subscribe, and also, if you want to join in fantasy, just DM me or Fallen. But that's going to do it for us. We are out of here.